Welcome to another episode of the Sports Bros Podcast, featuring the Almighty B Live, the Money Man Scottie D, and your host, the head of creative, Eddy Kool. And without any further ado, let's give it up for the Sports Bros. What's going on, world? This be your boy Eddy Kool, aka the HOC, and guess what? This is episode number 76 of your favorite podcast, the Sports Bros Podcast. And we're just coming through to say, hey, hello, how you doing? Once again, the Almighty B Live, he won't be with us again this week because he's getting that money, that fetty, that scratch, that guap, that paper. Yeah, he got to do things to pay them bills. Everything's legal, though. But be live. Come back soon, man. Come back soon. We miss you now more than ever. But I'm not alone, of course, because as you know, you don't want to hear me talk all the time. I mean, you could, but you don't want to. I got the one, the only, the pride of Washington, Pennsylvania, and he does not use the lawnmower. He does not use the bag when he cuts the lawnmower. The one, the only, the Money Man, Scottie D.
What's happening? What's going on in the world today?
Uh-oh.
You know what? I'm going to have to apologize. I'm not going to apologize for using B Live's catchphrase, but, things are tough in the world right now. You have the situation in California where the wildfires have been spreading, and it's been a tremendous burden on the people of California. You got all the political and social unrest going on in the world. COVID numbers continuing to rise. And I feel like I need to apologize because on Sunday night, the Dallas Cowboys did not do the right thing and win the game that would have brought everyone. It would have filled all of our hearts with joy the way that this country needs right now. So as a Cowboy fan, I apologize that my favorite organization didn't do that for America. America's team didn't come through for America on Sunday, and I know everyone is a little disappointed. And we're going to do the podcast anyway. I thought maybe we'd cancel because of that, but hey, let's fight on, Eddy Kool, in these dark times. Let's fight on.
Yeah, fight, win, and kick. You know what? Speaking of the NFL, guess what? It's week 1. But before we get to all that, man, we got the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs. Somebody threw a no-hitter in baseball. What's his name? Alec Mills. He threw a no-hitter. Naomi Osaka, she wins her second career U.S. Open in 3 years. The real week 1 of college football starts, but the moment we've all been waiting for since the end of the Super Bowl, week 1 of the 2020 NFL season. And Scottie D, there was a whole hell of a lot going on. And with that being said, man, what are your thoughts of week 1 of the NFL?
Scott's thoughts on week 1. Well, there's the biggest, I think, attraction of the weekend was Tom Brady beginning his career in another uniform and how that was going to shake out and how the Patriots were going to look without him. Before I get into that, though, I just want to, this is something that I may never do again. And that is to say congratulations to the Washington football team. As a Cowboy, I have never rooted for the formerly Redskins until this weekend. I have to admit I was rooting for them. That organization's been through a lot. They had the whole sexual harassment thing going on over the summer. They scrapped the name. They hired Jason Wright, who is the first black president in NFL history. He's a former player. He spent the past 7 years as a partner in a consulting firm, helping rebuild companies, and this football organization needed rebuilt. I saw Jason Wright interviewed. It seemed like a guy who was not a token hire because he was black. He seems like he's the right man to help this organization get going. And they have Ron Rivera aboard. And, Ron Rivera, Eddy, I know he has a place in your heart as a, former Carolina Panther coach. Mm-hmm. We talked before about him having cancer, and for them to come back and beat Philly this week. And then I believe it was Dwayne Haskins gave him the game ball afterwards. I thought that was a touching moment. And the Washington football team sits atop first place in the division.
Yep.
So congratulations to them. I may never say that again. I just wanted to kind of get that frog out of my throat, get that out of the way there. But
the Washington Red Wolves, you say?
Could be the Red Wolves, yeah, the Warriors, the Red Tail. We don't know what they're going to be. said,
The
hey,
Dubs.
it could be, yeah. Daniel Snyder said the other day, we have a nice retro thing going here, a nice look. Maybe we'll keep that name. So maybe they're going to be the team for good. Anyway,
Oh, gee,
1-0.
please.
We'll see how how that shakes out going into the season. See, the thing is, Eddy Kool, when this season begins, everyone's so starving for football that whatever happens in week 1 is magnified so much. You can't wait all summer to get to week 1, and then you do. You either win and you're ecstatic because, yes, hope springs eternal, or you lose and the sky is falling. And let's just get back to reality here. What we saw in week 1 was 1 week, 1 game, for your team. And before you get too high or too low off of it, but by week 10, a lot of times you think back and you're like, oh yeah, that did happen on opening day. Honestly, I thought, and tell me what you think here, Eddy, because I watched a lot of these games on Sunday. I thought the football was better played than I was expecting. Typically week 1 is sloppy. I was expecting it to be worse overall, the quality of play, because you didn't have the preseason tune-ups. Did you think I'm wrong on that, or agree with that? I mean, did you sense any of that?
Well, I agree with you on that, man. As far as like teams really coming out and playing meaningful football without the fans, unless you were in Kansas City, I think where they had like what 6,000 fans in the stadium, it was still loud.
Yeah,
These
few,
teams they say it again.
I saw a few stadiums had fans. I think a couple of the Florida stadiums had them as well. But yeah, yeah, most of them were empty. But yeah, continue.
Yep. I think that all the players, they're happy to once again do something they love, and it doesn't seem as compromised as they once thought it was, because there was an alert, an update that came out like right before kickoff that there are 0 new positive tests of coronavirus in the NFL. Of like
Oh,
a of like what 1,400 conducted tests, there was 0 um positive tests, and that's a good sign. That's a great sign. As far as the football go, the action was great, man. I mean, look at the Kansas City Chiefs and the Houston Texans. They played a pretty good game last night. As we all said before, Kansas City is going to do what Kansas City does. And once they got clicking, they got clicking. You got Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He had a great showing, a great debut. It looked great as well, too. Of course, we got the Browns. Well, the Browns are going to be the Browns. But overall, man, I think everybody came to play, especially Aaron Rodgers, who went off as they hung 43 points on the Minnesota Vikings. This game pretty much is just a shootout. The Vikings have a usually stout defense, but Aaron Rodgers had a point to prove, man. He really
and they lost some players off that defense from last year. I think they were down like 6-7 starters, maybe something like that from last year. So the Vikings had to have a little bit of adapting, and that's kind of I was kind of expecting some of what we saw to happen as far as teams with new coaches and new quarterbacks, and we even B Live had mentioned that a couple times before in our as we were doing our season preview stuff a few weeks ago. The new teams and the new quarterbacks, they struggled. You had Brady and the Buccaneers struggled. You had Phillip Rivers and the Colts, the Cowboys with their new coach, Panthers, Bengals. I think the Redskins, or the former Redskins, and the Patriots were some of the only ones that came through. So continuity definitely was an issue, because some of these teams didn't have the mini camps over the summer that they ordinarily would, and they had a lot of the virtual meetings, and obviously no preseason. And that brings me to the Tom Brady situation. I've been hearing a lot since the game Sunday afternoon about how Brady has absolutely lost it already, and he has completely gone downhill. And he was a system quarterback in New England. All the stuff that I kind of already said last week was nonsense. And again, this is week 1. Now you tell me, if you're Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, any of these great quarterbacks of the league, Eddy, don't you think you'd have an easier time defending your home field against Ryan Fitzpatrick than you would going to New Orleans and trying to defeat Breeze and that defense and that coaching staff, who last year was also very, very good on their home field. I mean, I think that this was set up schedule wise for Brady to get off to a rough start. I really do. I mean, I know he was out there working with receivers in shorts and t-shirts over the summer, and he was in the park that he wasn't supposed to be in and all that stuff. But there were some plays that obviously, I mean, he threw one interception where him and Evans were not on the same page.
Yep.
There's going to be some growing pains. There's no question about it. And I just think that after 1 week of Brady being in a new uniform, that, oh man, the internet, the memes, they crushed him. And you know what? This is going to be something you're going to hear probably all year long. What did New England do? What did Brady do? What did Cam Newton do? What did Brady do? And for Cam Newton, I thought he did fine in his first game in New England. I mean, that you have to say that's not got to be not an easy situation for him either, for the same reasons we mentioned before. But you know, he's got big shoes to fill up there, and he didn't try to be Tom Brady. He ran. You know, he did Cam. He did his thing, and to get that team to win up there. So, you know, kudos to him too. He still looked like a goof. I thought what was he wearing?
I don't know. I don't know. It's just it's sometimes. Yeah, I don't know. It's sometimes you have to bypass the the store the clothing section and the clothing selection style of choice. But I mean, looking at Cam, I had a chance to view the highlights, and from what I saw, Cam was pretty efficient, man. He passed for 155 yards and 30 touchdowns, and no interceptions. He took 2 sacks. Cam looked like himself. He was out there dancing and having fun, and you know, like I've told people in the past, if Cam gets healthy and if Cam starts having fun and he starts winning games, I mean, look out. I mean, yes, we've said, you know, a lot of people have said that they picked the Bills to win the division, but yes, it's early in the season. Yes, they played Miami in Miami in September. It doesn't matter. It's kind of like how people get riled up over baseball games in April. You know what I mean? Like that week 1 is kind of like, week 1 is like, you see what you got. You see what you got. And then when it comes to Cam Newton, all eyes on him. He's got a point to prove. I mean, he's in that Belichick system. And Cam just looked really efficient, and he wasn't trying to do entirely too much. So I think the change of scenery is great for him. But we going to see what he does next week. That's going to be interesting to see. And looking at other situations, like you said, where continuity really had really had something to do with it. I think Tom Brady may have his Edelman and a guy by the name of Scottie Miller, because Scottie Miller was all over the place. Yes, he was all over the place. Mike Evans, he kind of had a hamstring issue, but he did, get a touchdown. But that Saints defense looked great, looked awesome. They were flying around all over the place, and they made it real uncomfortable for Tom Brady. Meanwhile, you got Shady McCoy blowing blocks. I mean, you got to protect this man. You got to block this man at all costs, and you really can't just have him dangling out there like that, man. And as I stated earlier, the Baltimore Ravens, they look good. They look great. They ran all up and down with the Browns. I don't know what to say. Scotty, what you think about this whole Browns situation?
Well, it was in a topsy-turvy, upside-down world this year. The Browns were still Brownsish, the Lions were Lions-ish, and the Bengals were Bengals-ish. So, you had some normalcy there. The Browns game, if you're a Browns fan, I know you got to feel lousy about how badly that turned out. But the Ravens are one of the teams that are being predicted to be a Super Bowl team this year because they're good everywhere. I mean, Lamar Jackson looked fantastic. I mean, obviously he's the MVP, but he looks like he just picked up right where he left off. But that team is solid everywhere, all over the board. Mm-hmm. So if you're Cleveland, you say, you know what, let's go get better. Let's regroup. I think they've got some real problems with Baker Mayfield not having, I don't know if an identity is the way. I feel like he wants to try to do too much, and I think he needs to focus on, just complete the next pass. Let's I just think he tries to do too much sometimes, and he needs to learn to play his own game. He has no chemistry with Odell Beckham, and that's supposed to be their their best guy. You know, they went out and got this guy a year ago. Well, now you've had a full season and you're into your second season with him, and they're not developing any kind of chemistry together. That's a problem. The Lions is the one to me though is the I mean, what happened there? They had that game. What were they up 23-6 or something
Mm-hmm.
like that? I forget what it was, but for them to blow that game, that was atrocious. That one really hurt. So I think that that's going to be the first thread being pulled under the Matt Patricia regime in Detroit. The Bengals, you know, here you have your young quarterback, and I think that they I think they played it right with him. They didn't do too much. They let him run and be athletic. He scored a touchdown. He threw a bad shovel pass at one point that he shouldn't have. But having said that, he got the ball back at the end of the game and had a chance to win the game for them. They came down the field and he threw the winning touchdown pass, and they called offensive pass interference on AJ Green, rightfully so, good call, but that led to a field goal attempt to tie the game. They're playing the Chargers, a field goal attempt to tie the game, and the kicker misses by a ton and pulls a muscle or whatever happened there. So if you're the Bengals, at least you can say, wow, we were in that game. We had a little hope, and I thought Burrow looked poised and confident. You don't expect him to come out and look like Patrick Mahomes in the first game of his career, but I thought for what we saw of him, it was promising. So for those three perennial bottom dwelling teams, I think the Bengals probably today feel better about what happened than the other two teams. I would say. Well, I mean, what do you think between those three teams?
I think the most upside would have to be the Bengals, because the Bengals were in the game the entire game. We have a
Right.
mishap here, mishap there. He only threw for 139 yards, threw one interception, but he ran one in, and he looked like, hey, this is my team. I know what I got to do. And the offensive coordinator, they didn't try to stifle him. They're like, look, we know what you can do. Just go out there and just make do with what you got. This kind of this year is going to be a trial by error year for the Cincinnati Bengals. And for the Lions, man, week 5, you think Matt Patricia's gone by week 5? I think week 5 he's gone. He is just gone.
You might be right. He may not survive this whole season if that's what you have happen to you right off the bat. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that game was in Detroit too, right?
In Detroit, and then DeAndre Swift, he coughed up a fumble that could have been a game sealing touchdown. And then Mr. Trubisky, he's like Aaron Rodgers, he's another guy, playing with a point to prove this year, and he goes off. He has a good game and makes him look like a world beater. So out of the three teams you just mentioned, the most upside has to be the Cincinnati Bengals, as long as their wide receiving core can stay healthy, hand the ball off to Mixon, and just Joe Burrow can just do the best he can. And speaking of offensive pass interference, Scottie D, we got the end of the Cowboys-Rams game. First of all, I'm looking at these. The stadium is nice. It's beautiful. And I'm looking at the Rams uniform. It has the Los Angeles Rams. I'm like, we know who you are. You got a name tag on your jersey? I don't get it. But the offensive pass interference allegedly by Michael Gallup on Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey deserves an Emmy for the world's finest sell job, flop job. I think it was a little bit overboard, but I get it. You're trying to draw the penalty to do what you got to do. Was it the right call? I think it had to do something. I think, personally, they could have let it slide. I mean, Michael Gallup, he caught the ball with one hand. I can see if he had no shot at the ball, was completely smothered, and was grabbing and pulling on him. Because think about it, Scottie D. It's a lot of hand fighting, hand checking going on the field all the time between cornerbacks and wide receivers. But it was one of the worst timings in the history of the world to get that called on you.
Oh, it was the timing of it was a killer. No question about it. It's hard for me to tell you my true opinion on it because I'm looking at it through blue and silver lenses. I hated the call. I understand what the referee was calling when he said the arm extended. Now, again, the AJ Green call and for the Cincinnati game, he outright shoved off and then to make the catch. I'm with you. To me, it looked like you have to let the hand fighting go, and Ramsey sold it. I don't know if another cornerback would have got the call. He's the big name guy. He's the money guy. I don't know, Eddie. I've heard both sides of this. I want to tend to agree with you. I don't like over penalized games, over penalized situations, and that is a tough one. When you see those guys hand fighting, a lot of times I think they call pass interference on the defense that I'm not happy when they call that too, unless you have to actually hook the arm or pull a jersey or something. I think sometimes you have to let it go, and that was one where I certainly, as a Cowboy fan, wish they had let it go. Having said that, the Cowboys scored 3 points in the second half, and there was 30 seconds left in that game. To that point, they had scored 3 points in the second half. That's a problem. Dak Prescott's asking for all this money, and now from last season through the Sunday night game, in one possession games, the Cowboys are 1-7. They're 5-9 in their last 14 games. At some point, the quarterback has to be held accountable. I know that the Cowboys last year, I was the guy leading the charge with the pitchfork against Jason Garrett. We had to make a change. Very strange to me that they would retain the offensive coordinator. They bring McCarthy in. He's an offensive-minded guy. They retained the coordinator. I was a little bit questioning that when it first happened. We were recording our show when we found out McCarthy was the guy that got hired. And, I was very unhappy with that the moment I heard it.
He was miffed.
I was miffed at first, yeah, because I wanted one of these young, up-and-coming guy. I wanted a new guy. I wanted somebody young, like Rule for Carolina. I wanted one of these guys. And, as the offseason was going along, I'm thinking, McCarthy, maybe he is the right guy because he has experience. This is a team that's not looking to build for the future. They're looking to win right now. And so maybe he is the right guy. And he still might be, Eddie. Like I said, the sky's not falling after week one. But, I'd like to see every once in a while, when you're in a position where you need your quarterback to carry you to a win, I need to see Dak Prescott do that. When the Cowboys got the ball back Sunday night at the end of the game, they're down 3. They get the ball back with we'll say 2.5 minutes. It took them 10 plays to move 15 yards.
Wow.
Now, can you imagine Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson being in that position and not even getting past midfield, not even getting a resembling a look at a long field goal? I mean, these guys that are making the big money, these big time quarterbacks, I just cannot imagine them being in a situation with one timeout in the 2-minute warning that they accomplish 15 yards in 10 plays. You got to do better than that, Dak, if you want to be, if you're demanding this kind of money, because in Dallas, I mean, that football's king down there. They'll let you know that,
You're right, Scottie. They will let you know. And just like those guys you mentioned, Rodgers and Mahomes and Wilson, they're known for not cracking under pressure. They're known for think about like all 3 of them. If it don't go according to plan, they will improvise if need be. Also, that's why they're making the big damn money, because they make big things happen. And what Dak has to understand, well, he should already know by now, hey, man, if you want all this money, you got to make things happen. Play falls apart. You're going to use your arm. You're going to use your feet. What you going to do? The short receiver, your flats, you're going to throw a screen. Like, what do you, in order for you to want this, if we're going to pay you, then what you going to do on your end to assure that you can, that you can put us in a winning position? Because, if it takes you 10 plays, how many Scottie D? How many plays you said?
They said they ran 10 plays and got about 15 yards.
Yeah, 10 plays, 15 yards. I mean,
his first 2 throws were, I think, like 3 or 4 yard gains, and you're facing defenses that are guarding the sidelines and guarding the deep ball. You got to get down the field 10 and 15 yard chunk plays. I mean, this is where your legendary quarterbacks have
Mhm.
made their money. I mean, you always think of Montana, Elway, Brady with the comeback wins. They all do. They march down the field at crunch time. All the big time quarterbacks have to come through in that situation, and I just haven't seen that out of Dak Prescott the last 2 years. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's a great, likable guy. And again, this is only 1 week of this season, but I've seen this pattern, with him before, and I was very disappointed in the end of the game, and in the fact that the Cowboys didn't at least get a chance to tie the game up. I know they passed on the field goal earlier in the game. That's a whole other story. I thought that was very strange,
Mhm.
but because there was 10 minutes left in the game at that point on the road, nonetheless. But and if the referee doesn't call the penalty on Michael Gallup, it changes the whole narrative. Maybe then they kick a field goal. Maybe they win in overtime. Who knows? It didn't come out that way. But, whenever you're up 14-13 at halftime and you have 17 on the board with 30 seconds left in the game, something in the middle there, you didn't do enough. You didn't do enough to win the game. And, Eddie, I tell you, if you look at the league over this first week, quarterback is what was bigger than ever. Look at the performance of Mahomes and Russell Wilson and Lamar Jackson and Rodgers and Breeze. I feel like those guys are now, like, especially Mahomes and Wilson, I feel like and you could actually throw Lamar in there too. He's the MVP.
Mhm.
Those guys, I feel like they're kind of the elite of the elite right now. Like, if you see what Russell Wilson did on Sunday, if he plays like that this year, that's MVP. He'll be the MVP of the league, and he'll take Seattle to the Super Bowl. I thought Seattle was going to go in on Sunday. Actually, in my little poll I did with my friends, I picked Atlanta to win that game. I don't know why I keep picking for Atlanta, because they keep you down. But
I'm about to say, yeah, didn't they let you down a lot last year with
they
that
do.
defense? Oh boy, it's
They
just
do.
and Atlanta is another one of those situations like what the hell what are we doing? What's going on? You can't get right. Like you just and just like we had this conversation, was it last week, about Matt Ryan going from, one of those borderline elite guys to
Right.
damn near
Yeah.
Matthew Stafford.
But he had significant numbers on Sunday too.
Mm,
But Russell Wilson, I think, was what, like 33 of 36 or something like that. I mean,
efficient.
and this guy is so, his football IQ is so high. I think I said that last week, where he knows when to run. He doesn't let himself take hits. And now it looks to me more so in the game yesterday. And again, 1 week, but
Well,
how many times have you in the past heard you have to run the ball to set up the pass? Well, I think Seattle would look like they're going the opposite direction. They're letting Russell Wilson be that threat. They cut him loose, and then that opens up your running lanes. I think. I mean, to me, that seemed like they kind of cut Russell Wilson loose, and at this point, I feel like we might be watching a quarterback who is in his prime, really starting to hit his peak here. And I think Mahomes is in that boat, and I think Lamar might be in that boat as well. Um, but and Aaron Rodgers and Breeze, I think, both showed, hey, we're the old guys, but we still got it too here, and with their big days on Sunday. But man, Mahomes and Wilson to me look like the elite of the elite right now when it comes to the NFL quarterback.
yeah, for a while, man, they really, like, we was going to, because think about, for the past, this past like 10, 11, years that Seattle's been successful. It's like, look, we're gonna run the ball and play good defense. We're gonna run the ball, play good defense. We're gonna put our quarterback out there. Just don't f this up. But
Yeah,
they found a diamond in the rough. And Russell Wilson, as you said, his football IQ is very, very high. So it's the classic case of him making something out of nothing. Now he's been doing that for a while. They finally got him, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, and they said they want to re-sign Josh Gordon whenever he puts the weed down. So
right.
just imagine them having all that. Not to mention in the backfield, they got Chris Carson, one of the most underrated backs in the league, and
Yep.
also Carlos Hyde, who's still serviceable. The defense is, Seattle's defense is the Seattle defense. It's not as strong as it once was, but it'll keep you winning games. So now it's going from just being, hey, play defense to run the ball to now, okay, now we got a quarterback who has some wide receivers. They have a balanced offensive attack. And like you said, they kind of took the top off Russell Wilson. Like, look, I think Scottie D, between, we look at him and Joe Burrow and a few other guys, is going to be like, look, here's the keys. Make the best of it. And crazy as it is, you're going to laugh, but you know who else was pretty efficient yesterday?
Tell me.
Uncle Rico. Gardner Minshew the second.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that was one of the guys I was going to talk about here right after you were completing that thought. Because I think, I don't remember if I said this on the air before, but I was talking about how Jacksonville looks like they're tanking for Trevor. Look like they want to have the first pick in the draft. Minshew mania, baby.
Minshew mania. Hey man, Uncle Rico. Hey, he's gonna wind up being one of those cult figures in the NFL. I mean, from a fantasy football standpoint, my silly behind, I went and picked up the Colts defense. Jaguars, cakewalk, easy, no Fournette, no problem, no issue. But they made me look silly because the Jaguars messed around and won the game. Yeah, they messed around and won the freaking game. Matter of fact, Gardner Minshew, he was 19 for 20 for 173 yards and 3 touchdowns. One more time, 19 for 20, which means he had one bad pass. One, Scott, bad pass for only 173 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like, yeah, and people are like, oh man, they let Nick Foles go, and now they stuck with this Uncle Rico look like. Hey man, look, if that's not a bad showing for a second-year quarterback to be that efficient. Because
they were trailing in that game too. They had to come back in that game.
Yeah, they had to come back in that game, and he kept them in the game. Keelan Cole scored, DJ Chark Jr. scored, and a guy you gonna need. Everybody get familiar with the name of Laviska Shenault Jr. He's gonna be a great gadget piece for the Jaguars. Scottie D, we didn't talk a whole lot about football. Let's go and just run through everything else right fast when it comes to the NBA and the NHL. Of course, as most of you know, if you've been watching the Houston Rockets, they gone. Yeah, they got 8-6 by the Lakers, which means the Lakers move on to the conference finals. And then in the other Western Conference semifinals between the Nuggets and the Clippers, Game 7, go big or go home. But over in the East, no one predicted this one between the Heat and the Celtics. I did not predict it, none whatsoever. I'll say it once again for the Bucks. Chris Middleton, he just ain't it. He gonna need some help. And then over in the West, James Harden's like, we need one more piece. We need one more piece. Scottie D, we just had this conversation about live by 3, die by 3 basketball and how it worked for Golden State for various reasons, but Houston, not gonna happen.
Well, they were, like you said, they died by the 3. It was like, where's Plan B? The Lakers really D'd those guys up. A few times the Lakers got up big and Houston shot their way back into it. But that's the way it is with Houston. If the shots don't go down, then they go down. And that's what happened. The Lakers, they really stepped their defense up. For the second series in a row, the Lakers lost the opening game, then won the next consecutive 4 games. Man, I actually, as a Laker fan, I was happy to see that, but I felt like Houston was going to put up a better fight. And now D'Antoni's gone. He's already moved on from Houston. I don't know where the Rockets go from here. Do they, I don't know. I think Harden's under contract for a few more years here, if I'm not mistaken. And again, I haven't looked that up, so I don't know. But that style of basketball to me is not going to win you a championship unless you have Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant.
Yep.
And that's the league is evolving into that. Every team wants to bomb the 3. It's like the new analytics of the NBA. Everybody wants to to do that. And I think James Harden is an incredible scorer. I just don't know that he's the right guy to build your franchise around. I mean, this is year after year after year now. He's going out of the playoffs. He's not even made it to a championship. You know, they were close a couple years ago, and they had Chris Paul in there, and he got hurt, and they lost to Golden State in a game 7. I think you gotta have your bigs to win. And the Lakers went away from their bigs in this series. You know, they matched up with them small ball wise. You know, they didn't have McGee and Howard out there because they really couldn't guard these fast perimeter players, and they weren't coming down to the paint. So the Lakers D'd those guys up, and they've moved on. And in the meantime, what are the Clippers doing? Blowing a 19-point lead in the second half against the Nuggets. I think if they're good enough to build that lead, I think they blew a 16-point lead in another game. I think the Clippers what they need to do is just stay on the gas, and I think that'll happen in Game 7. Nuggets have given them all they can handle. I just kind of feel like the Clippers, if they can get up 19, then that means they're good enough to beat the team and just not collapse like that for lack of concentration or whatever happened. They gave that up. And I think in a Game 7, Kawhi Leonard is just he's the guy you want on your team. So I think we're gonna have LA, and then Boston, Miami. Very interesting because I thought Milwaukee was
we never saw that coming.
No, I didn't
saw it coming. It was just like we just went ahead and just like, you know what, the Bucks just go straight to the Eastern Conference Finals. And but like I said if and I did say this, if the Bucks get to the Eastern Conference Finals, it's gonna be a fight between them and the Miami Heat. I said the Heat was gonna push them to 5. The Heat was gonna push them to 5. They did, but Milwaukee, Giannis got hurt. Milwaukee only won one game. Scottie D, we did not predict this. The Heat and the Celtics.
Nope. It seemed like it was Milwaukee had the East to lose, which they did. And if it wasn't going to be them, we were tossing around Toronto, possibly Boston, Philly, and Miami just showed up. So very interesting to see how those series will shake out. But again, the Clippers aren't even there yet. They got to get by the Nuggets on Tuesday night. So we'll see how that all works out there in the bubble.
Yep, they're gonna give them all they can handle. Just don't be Daniel House Jr. Just don't be him. Just don't be him. You got plenty of time to mess around now, Daniel. Plenty of time to mess around. Speaking of a conference finals that ain't messing around, let's go to the NHL Conference Finals, the Eastern Conference Finals, and the Western Conference Finals. Over in the East, Tampa Bay has a commanding 3-1 lead over the New York Islanders, and over on the West, last pick, the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Ooh, boy, they are looking at trying to overcome a 3-1 deficit as the Dallas Stars lead the series 3-1. Scottie D, one game could determine everything in both series.
Yes, sir. And as we spoke of before, Tampa Bay looks like they're trying to correct the wrong that they of getting eliminated, swept in the first round a year ago when they were the best team in the NHL by far. And so they have taken a commanding lead over the Islanders, a very game Islanders team. I watched a little bit of their, I think it was the third game. Actually, the Islanders won the game that I watched. But they were up 3-1 and found themselves having to score right at the end of regulation just to win that game. It just seems like Tampa Bay is too much. And admittedly, I have seen maybe 3 minutes total of the Vegas Dallas series, so I have not watched much NHL West.
Hey man, that's West Coast hockey, man. They treat it just like the Pac-12. Hey man, that comes on when? Hey man, we're going to bed. We got some other stuff to do, but yeah, man. Between the NHL and the NBA, man, we narrowing it down to the finals. Then we got baseball. They, starting to lock down playoff spots as soon as possible, man. Then we got football back, of course. Not to mention we got college football. We didn't talk about college football too much because it's Clemson won. The Big Ten still ain't playing. The SEC starting soon, and there's everybody else. So hopefully in the weeks to come, we'll have more to talk about. But Scottie D, guess what time it is?
What time is it, Eddy Kool?
It's time for our favorite part of the show. And with that being said, hey, Button, hit it.
And now, our favorite part of the show, the choices of the voices.
Once again, thank you to the wonderful and ever so lovely Miss Button for introducing our favorite section of the show. You heard the woman, the choices of the voices. And Scottie D, I must say, man, the past 2 weeks of the choices of the voices has been widely and highly entertaining between our listeners, going back and forth at each other. You getting praised for dropping the mic. We'll get into that a little bit later, but hey, man, Scottie D, keep the good thing going, man. I'm going to shut my mouth. And what's the question for this week's Choices of the Voices?
Very simply, who is the best college quarterback you ever saw play? And we had quite a few variety of different choices from our voices out there. Eddie, who do we have?
All right. I'm going to, spoiler alert, I'm going to save the best for last. I want Scottie D to have fun with this one. Our big homie from the nation's capital, Joe Gafkin, he said Michael Vick. Not only did he have a cannon, yes, Lord, he did, but he is, and by far, one of the most fastest, most elusive quarterbacks I've ever seen. Hashtag video game cheat code.
He was like watching a video game, man. He really was something special at Virginia Tech, and just something about him being a lefty just made it even more exciting for some reason. I don't know, just because it was so different. That's a good call on that one.
Yeah, it is very, very different, man. Good one. Uncle Max, what's going on, man? He said, I love watching Doug Flutie play. Flutie Flakes. Doug Flutie. That's who Uncle Max picks as an exciting college quarterback. What is that pass to Gerald Phelan at the end of the game?
Yeah, to beat Miami. And I have to be honest with you. You know, I was a kid then, and I didn't watch Doug Flutie play a lot. I know that he won the Heisman really it felt like a single pass, but I can't pretend that I know a lot of what Doug Flutie looked like on the college football field. But I mean, he obviously was extremely good to win the Heisman. You know, it went beyond that one pass, but how famous is that? I mean, you see that replay all the time, and you just picture in your mind Flutie like jumping up and down as he's coming down the field after he threw it.
He was short, number 22 jersey. The jersey was bigger than he was, but
yeah,
man, he was he had that size didn't matter. You know, him and Muggsy Bogues, man, size what? Muggsy said I'm gonna shoot this basketball, and Doug said I'm gonna throw this here football, and I'm gonna win some games. He found great success in Canada, so it was a perfect match. Our very own Martin Tracy, Matty Icy said, first one comes to mind without a doubt is Michael Vick, and we got 2 for Doug Flutie, and we got a third honorable mention about some dude named Scott Donnelly for his QB like mic dropping history lessons on Tom Brady. Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you on that, man. Scottie D really gave us a thorough history lesson. So listen up, you pencil neck geeks, in the words of classic Freddie Blassie. Yeah, Scottie D gave us a history lesson. B Live wasn't so happy about it, but we'll let him plead his case at another time. So
and neither was Trey Dizzle. Trey wants to offer a lot of resistance here, but we'll get to Trey later.
Oh boy, a lot of resistance. All right, here we go. We got Bruce Diamond. He said J.P. Lossman.
Crickets on that one.
Moving right along, we got J.P. Lossman. I guess he was the man. I remember J.P. Lossman playing for Tulane.
Yeah,
and he played for Buffalo, and
he was a Buffalo's first round pick, I think, one year around late '90s or so.
Yeah, extremely late. Oh, Scottie D, doing my little bit of research, I found this tidbit about J.P. Lossman. According to Wikipedia, so grain of salt if you got it between your fingers. In 2007, J.P. Lossman joined Clemson as a coaching intern. He eventually became the offensive coach, and in March 2019, while taking part in throwing drill at Clemson's Pro Day, he was asked by an NFL scout if he would consider returning to the league despite not having played since 2011. Lossman declined.
How about that?
Yeah, that was in 2019. Who was somebody had to be hurt, and if they just scraping a bottle of the pork and bean barrel for J.P. Lossman. I'm just saying. A total of 6,000 career passing yards, 33 touchdowns, 34 interceptions. Slim pickings for the NFL and J.P. Lossman. I wish I knew who the scout was.
Who knows?
All right, Scottie D. Move right along. We got Craig Burns. He said, now that I understand the rules a little bit, because he was being a funny guy, he said, I'll go with Tony Rice of the 1988 Fighting Irish. I heard a little something about Tony Rice, Scott.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was really good that year. He had Tim Brown. I'm pretty sure was his receiver. That was his connection, and Rice was fast. He was an option runner. He's a running quarterback. Yeah, he was pretty good. I think that was Notre Dame's last national championship.
Yep. Was good old Lou Holtz at the helm?
He was.
Lou Holtz. Good old Lou Holtz. Rambus Evans, I like this one personally. He said Colt Brennan of the University of Hawaii. Yes, Colt Brennan. Didn't he have like the all-time passing record in NCAA history?
I feel like he did. Yeah, at one point, maybe still does. I'm not sure, but yeah, that dude threw a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, he threw the ball a whole lot. Think about that's crazy, man. Like every once in a while, Hawaii will have will sneak up and have a fairly decent quarterback.
Yeah.
You remember they had a guy by the name of Timmy Chang?
I do. Yeah, he's another one that threw the ball a ton.
Yeah, they really put that ball in the air. So I'm looking at his college records. Second all time in most career touchdowns, responsible for 146. NCAA record for most 400-yard games, 20 achieved in 2007. Let's see. He has 6 all-time in NCAA history, and total passing yards was 14,193. Fourth all-time with career touchdown passes at 131. He was a bad dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a bad dude, man. Some of his records have since been eclipsed, but yeah, Colt Brennan was a bad dude. I don't know. It must be the beat, Scottie D. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Relax, why and just sling it around.
Yeah, just go out there, throw the football. I'm gonna be June Jones, wear a Hawaiian shirt, just throw the ball. Don't worry about it. He's a great coach, one of the greats. They don't talk about him that much. Monique Adams said she asked some of her coworkers, and they said Deshaun Watson, and another coworker said Tim Tebow. 2 championship-winning quarterbacks. Thank you for your answer, Monique. The almighty B-Live said Charlie Whitehurst.
Yeah, Clemson all the way. All roads lead to Dabo.
Yeah, Charlie Whitehurst. Clipboard Jesus. Yes, I think he threw 35 NFL passes, took 20 sacks, and just held the clipboard. And just stood there and grew long hair and a beard. Kind of huh?
Clemson legend.
Hey, man, Charlie Whitehurst. We're joking. All jokes aside, he said Deshaun Watson. Yeah, B-Live picked Deshaun Watson. Dave Romito, he said Dan Marino, the legendary Dan Marino. One of the best to never win a Super Bowl. I'm not a Dolphins fan, but to know what Dan Marino does hurts my heart, man. I saw a career highlight package on him if he, I think Dan Marino would be talked about in that conversation if he would have won at least one.
Yeah.
One.
Yep.
Because I think all it takes is one. Stephen Delamore said Vince Young was dynamic in everything he did at the college level. Whew.
Well, I don't know about his overall career, but he had maybe the best single game I've ever seen a college quarterback have when they beat USC that one year. I forget what even bowl game that was in, but it was he was like a one-man gang that night. And that Southern Cal team was loaded with Leinart, Reggie Bush, and Lendell White. I mean, that was a good team, man. And Vince Young, man, he just put on a performance of a lifetime that night.
I can explain Steven's reasoning for selecting the answer because Steven is a Texas boy and it's hook 'em horns all day long, all the time. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure he had a first-hand account of watching Vince Young do what he did. Hey, man, Vince Young was a hellraiser, man. Just kind of wish that it started to translate towards the NFL. Was he in the MVP running one year?
In the NFL?
Yeah, I thought he was.
I don't think. I don't remember him ever getting off that good of a year in the NFL. He had some problems for a little while there too. So I don't remember that, Eddie. I mean, I can't swear to it, but I don't think
he had some problems. Nobody seems to solve. Since Be like picking at us about singing on the show, we got to sing every once in a while. So the barge, problems, all this love. All right, so here we go. Wrapping it up. We got Paul Odom. He said Cam Newton. Yep. Once he got out of Florida and did his thing at Blinn Junior College and won a couple of national college junior college championships and went to Auburn and won the big one. Yeah, Cam Newton, that guy.
Did he only play 1 year at Auburn?
I think he did, if I'm not mistaken.
I know he had one heck of a year and they won the national championship. I couldn't remember if that was his only year that he actually played for Auburn, but Cam was a very special college football player. No question about it.
Yeah, he beat I think that team, they just steamrolled the entire SEC conference. I mean, and that West Division alone was tough. Yeah, that West Division was a very, very, very tough division to play in. It was Auburn, Alabama, Mississippi State, LSU, Ole Miss. Yeah, one of the toughest divisions to play in college football. Yeah, that year he won it all. He had only 2 years in Florida. That 1 year 2009 in Blinn College, and then they had a spectacular year in Auburn where he rushed for 1,000. Threw for 2,000.
Wow.
I think he won the Heisman, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yep. He won by Heisman. And hey, this was Tim Tebow's backup. Yeah, Tim Tebow's backup. So yeah, man, something in the water, man. So yeah, Cam Newton. Yep. Yes, Paul. He was a hell of a player. Well, Scottie D, that's it. Well, nope. Wait a minute. Hold on. Like I said, we're gonna say the best for last, and here we go. We got the one, the only Trey Dizzle, and he said. Scottie took a wild guess.
Tony Romo?
Oh, he said Tony Romo. There's nothing. He said there's nothing better than seeing numbers. Somebody cue me some sexy music. There's nothing better than seeing number 17 on college football Saturday. Lace up that sexy blue Eastern Illinois Panthers jersey and break Sean Payton's records.
Wow.
Yeah.
Trey, if you're listening, buddy, we really need to talk. We really need to sit down and work some things out.
Oh man, Trey Dizzle said, "This here ain't light, it is heavy."
and Trey, if you're listening, I know that you're down on Dak Prescott, and I think I was pretty objective earlier discussing his shortcomings, so that should hold you for a little while. But we might need to start going to some meetings or something, buddy, about this Romo thing. That's just my opinion.
Coming soon, the Sports Bros Podcast Intervention, where we bring Trey Dizzle in and try to figure out what the hell is going on. Scottie D, just like I said, man, the past few threads of the choices of the voices, they have been wildly entertaining between Matty Ice, Trey Dizzle, you, just going back and forth. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening, if you ever want some good entertainment where some guys just talking sports and just going at it, kind of like the guys in the barbershop or your uncles and them in the backyard after having a few, you need to check out the Sports Bros Podcast, Choices of the Voices post, and we try to post that every Thursday. Hell, Scottie D, you might have to post it a day earlier instead.
I'm going to try to get the new topic out on Wednesday this week. So we'll some days I'm more up to date than others. We'll try it this week.
Yep. Stay tuned, man. We got something special planned for the choices of the voices. Somebody put a little birdie in my ear, and Scott, I can't tell everybody how the sausage is made, but yeah, I think I think it'll be very, very interesting. All right, Scottie D, who did you pick?
Well, I did share before that I thought that Deshaun Watson was one of the greatest I've ever seen at the collegiate level, and he was the most exciting quarterback. And I watch a lot of his games because, being in South Carolina, Clemson is, they're big there. And he just always seemed to play his best in the big games. I'm going to go away from him, though, for a guy who is often overlooked, and that is a guy by the name of Tommie Frasier from Nebraska.
Oh, Good one. Wow. Yeah. Damn. I forgot all about Tommie Frasier.
Tommie Frasier gets overlooked a lot because he had no NFL career, and so his name ends as his college career ended. But this is a guy who, in his career, went 33-3 and was the most valuable player of the national championship 3 years in a row. The first year they lost to Florida State, and I think he was actually co-MVP with Charlie Ward, who was another one of the great quarterbacks I had ever seen. But if you remember the early 90s Nebraska Cornhuskers, they were just they were phenomenal. They just didn't lose. They just rolled people. And Tommie Frasier also had Lawrence Phillips as a backfield mate who he had a tragic story as well. But Tommie Frasier in on his way to a national championship in his junior year had blood clots that caused him to miss a handful of games. They replaced him by a young guy named Brooke Behringer, who I believe is also I think he died in a helicopter accident or something a few years ago. But he came back in time to play in the Orange Bowl, and he actually I think he didn't start the game, but came into the game and ended up coming from behind to beat Miami, and they won the national championship. Then the following year, he was just on fire. He had over 1,300 yards passing. He was running. He was like really in today's game. Uh, uh, he would fit in today's NFL, I think, a lot better because that run pass option is so prevalent in today's NFL where, he was kind of a guy before his time back in Nebraska. But Tommie Frasier was outstanding. A lot of people think he should have won the Heisman. It went to Eddie George that year, but 3 years in a row, this guy's the MVP of the biggest game of the year. And it's sad that because of his health conditions, he didn't get drafted. He had a recurrence of the blood clots, and then he had, I think, just a short career in the CFL, and health issues just always sidelined this guy. But in today's NFL, he would be drafted probably very high, where he was not drafted at all back then. The style of play back then, again in 1995, was not as conducive as is today's NFL. It was, we were more pocket passer oriented at that point in the NFL as than today. But Tommie Frasier was outstanding, and I just can remember it, just how dominant that Nebraska team was, led by Tom Osborne. And so Tommie Frasier is going to be my pick for this week. How about you, Eddy Kool? Who you got?
Man, I tell you what, wow, how in the hell did I ever forget about? I think when I first started like watching college football, I watched Nebraska, and I would see this number 15 just run around all over the place. I'm like, who is this dude?
Oh, he had a running Florida in one of those national championship games where it looked like he was tackled by 7 guys, and then he just goes down the sidelines. He was incredible.
Yeah, man, he was totally incredible. All right, so I'm gonna pick Steve Tannehill. No, I am so joking. I am so lying. But he was. Hey man, just look him up, man. Steve Tannehill, the University of South Carolina, mullet and all.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he was a cool dude.
Little game love there. A little Gamecock love.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna have to pick Michael Vick, man.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to pick Michael Vick because you remember, Scottie D, there was a gap between Tommie Frasier and then Michael Vick. And then you really didn't have anybody in between it. You really, everybody was just traditional.
Yeah, that was about the same. Yeah, that was about the same time. Sure.
Yep, everybody was like traditional drop back, drop back passing quarterbacks, and and that's it. That's what they were. And so what Michael Vick can do, he had a cannon, he could run, and he lit it up. And then he really put Virginia Tech on the top, like over the top, when it comes to being in college football, um, a powerhouse. One of those guys never won a championship, but Michael Vick was just good at what he did. And watching the 30 for 30 Vic, it's a two-part series. You get like a newfound respect of Vic from where he came from, and from him to be able to overcome what he did with the whole dogfighting scandal, a certain time for jail, and then just on a mission, just redeeming himself. And it's sad that people mention Michael Vick, and they first thing bring up is the dogfighting thing. People make mistakes, and stuff happens, but you can't deny the ability that this man did as, in 3 years at Virginia Tech, became the man and really understood, like, okay, I got to take this seriously. This could be my ticket out the hood and make the best of it. So, I mean, Michael Vick was just absolutely exciting. I mean, I was in South Carolina watching good old Big East football.
And he really put them on the map, too. I mean, he elevated that program.
Yeah, he really did, because before that, I couldn't tell you nothing about no doggone Virginia Tech. Who was that? Was it Jake Druckenmiller or something like that?
Maybe. I don't know, but I know that he definitely shone a light on that program for sure.
Yeah, he definitely shown like, hey, we got some good players here at Virginia Tech, man, and don't overlook us, man. We actually got some good talent, and Virginia Tech got something to say. And yeah, man, Michael Vick, man, he is the video game cheat code. So I'm rolling with Joe Gafkin on that one. Michael Vick, I was gonna say Cam Newton, but I think we got like a sample sizing. Like you said, one season, Cam Newton was great. But looking at guys like Tommie Frasier and Michael Vick and Deshaun Watson, they have a
Tebow, man. Tebow's right up there too.
And Tebow, you can consider those guys as some of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of college football. Joe Burrow too, even though he had 1 year, but still though, I mean he did a lot in a short window, man. So yeah, I'm gonna say Michael Vick. So Scottie D, you picked Tommie Frasier. I'm surprised that name didn't pop up, and I'm surprised I didn't think about that. I picked Michael Vick, and with that being said, shout out to Trey Dizzle, Joe, Uncle Max, Matty Ice, Big Boss Man Bruce Diamond, Craig Burns, Rambus, Dave, Monique, Stephen Delamore, Paul, and the Almighty B-Live for their participation in this week's Choices of the Voices. Scottie D, what's on tap for next week?
All right, this one here is just going to be a multiple choice question. Out of these NFL records, which do you find to be the most impressive? LaDainian Tomlinson rushing for 28 touchdowns in one season in 2006. Peyton Manning throwing for 5,477 yards in a single season in 2013. Or 149 receptions 1 year ago for Michael Thomas of the Saints. So those are all NFL records. Which one do you think is most impressive? Peyton Manning's passing record, LaDainian Tomlinson's touchdown record, or the receptions for Michael Thomas? And I'll post that hopefully Wednesday morning, and let us know what you think on Choices of the Voices.
Because we know y'all itching and scratching for the Choices of the Voices, and we appreciate your participation. Scottie D, we come a long way from talking about cereal.
I love the cereal topic. That was great.
The cereal topic was great, man. It was great. It was a great turnout, man. A great response, man. And yeah, and we know that B-Live is a milk first guy, then cereal first, then milk guy. But that's neither here nor there. B-Live, we picking at you because we love you and we miss you. We know
What's
you got
on in the world today.
This be your boy, yes sir. Yep. Yes, sir. Yeah, what was another one of B-Live's? Yes sir. You can find me in St. Louis with the Battle Hawks and everything, and
but I digress.
Yeah, but I digress. I got to put the train back on the track, and I don't be live. I got to put the train back on the track, not the track back on the train, because that never works. All right, we get ready to get up out of here. We running in the third, trying not to slide. I'm going to be Fernando Tatis Jr. Just hit the ball, and Eric Hosmer, you better not say a word to me. Self-censor myself. I'm still a little tight about that. Me and a coworker had a conversation about the whole Fernando Tatis home run situation. You got three choices. Plunk them. The bases are loaded. You plunk them. You're going to bring the runner home. You walk them, bring the runner home, or just have him clear the bases all over again. It's like, what's the lesser of the three evils? But I digress. San Diego, they're still good. I hope it makes noise in the playoffs. Pepper, pepper, pepper. Don't sneeze, cover your nose. But if you do, wipe your face and keep it in your mask. 3 topics. We talk about them, rapid fire style, kind of, sort of, not really. A mixture of comedy, entertainment, and education. Yes, brand new tagline. I'm going to continue my tradition in this day in history. And Scottie D, he's going to have some funny stuff for us. Are you ready, Scottie D?
I'm ready to hear this, buddy.
All right, let's go ahead and shake this pepper around. On this day in 1952, the Braves, they had their last game in Boston Braves Field before they moved to Milwaukee and become the Milwaukee Braves. Well, as you know, they didn't stay there long, because now the Milwaukee Braves are the Atlanta Braves. Yep, they've been relocating for quite some time, and I think they just might stay in Atlanta with that brand new stadium. What you think, Scottie D?
Well, they better. I mean, Atlanta just keeps throwing up stadiums every 20 years or so, so they might want to stick around for this. It's a beauty stadium. I've been there, so yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with Turner Field. Anyways, I understand the reason why. But with that being said, over to you, Scottie D.
All right, and at the 2009 British Open, Tom Watson nearly pulled it off, a major victory at age 59. A lot of people remember him blowing that on the last hole with a bogey, but a lot of people don't remember that Stewart Cink won that tournament. Again, that was in 2009. Stewart Cink did not win again until this past Sunday. Maybe a little bit under the radar because it was NFL weekend and all that good stuff. But Stewart Cink won the Safeway Open at the Silverado Resort and Spa with his son on the bag. So congratulations, Stewart Cink, on your first PGA Tour victory since 2009. Back over to you, Eddy Kool.
All right, Scottie D. I got a good one for you here. You're going to like this one. On this day in history back in 1977, the Baltimore Orioles, they forfeit to the Toronto Blue Jays when manager Earl Weaver pulls his team off the field in the fifth inning, citing hazardous conditions. Now, Scottie D,
what were those hazardous conditions?
I'm glad you asked. Small tarpaulin on the bullpen mound. Now,
oh, is what?
Small tarpaulin on the bullpen mound. Ask me what tarpaulin is.
What is that?
Tarp.
Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking, but explain. Go on, Eddy Kool. Explain.
Okay, you have to understand this. Okay, small tarpaulin on the bullpen, the bullpen mound, not the actual mound, but the bullpen mound. So I guess Earl Weaver said, "I'm gonna put my boys off the field." What, Earl? In 1977, I'm pretty sure if Eddy Kool was alive back then, I probably would have said, "Do better, Earl." Over to you, Scottie D.
That's very strange. He was an eccentric, though, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think he was one of the all-time ejection leaders, if I'm not mistaken, in Major League Baseball managerial history. Anyway, so this week will be the U.S. Open at where's it at? Wingfoot. Yeah, back.
Hey, Wingfoot.
Yeah. Tiger Woods will not make the cut. I'm telling you that because 2 weeks ago he played at Olympia Fields up in Illinois, and the conditions were set up similar to a U.S. Open field with high rough, and Tiger is not getting off the tee well this year. He looked a little bit tired. I mean, he's always going to have the back issue and everything. He's never going to get 4 great days in a row to play. I hate to see it, but I think Tiger is going to hit the ball in the rough. He's going to make it hard on himself, and I don't think Tiger's going to make the cut. He missed the cut in 2006 at the same venue. Now, this was his only cut missed during that. This is like during his reign of dominance. That was right after his father passed away, so that may be a little bit more understandable. But the way Tiger's been struggling off the tee, that's kind of been a hallmark of his career. There's no room to do that at Wingfoot because the rough is going to be too high. And I'm picking Jon Rahm to win the U.S. Open this week. Eddy Kool, back to you.
Jon Rahm, back at it again. All right, so here we go. On this day in 2002, Oakland Raiders quarterback Rich Gannon begins the NFL record-tying streak of consecutive games of 300 yards passing, 6, throwing for 403 yards in the Raiders' 30-17 victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kurt Warner and Steve Young, they did it too. And Scottie D, if I'm not mistaken, this was the year that Rich Gannon became the MVP and the Raiders went to the Super Bowl, right?
2002, is that what you said?
Yep, says 2002.
Yeah, I believe it was. That sounds right to me. Yeah.
Yep, man. See, hey, we just had a conversation about Rich Gannon. See, all our episodes have a tie-in. They all have a tie-in. So you never know what you're going to get when you listen to the Sports Bros podcast. So, yeah, Rich Gannon, he throws the ball around a whole lot too. Yeah, went to the Super Bowl, but couldn't win it, but that's neither here nor there. Over to you, Scottie D.
Episodic Sports Bros podcast.
That's what we do.
Now, Eddy Kool, a while back, you may have remembered getting a text from me. This is right around the time we had Jackie Robinson weekend where all the players wore number 42.
Mm-hmm.
I texted to you guys. I thought it would be a cool thing if they would allow the players of baseball to wear number 21 in honor of Roberto Clemente, because as a Pittsburgh guy, he's still legendary here. And the Pirates did just that last week. The whole team wore number 21, and the league offered up any Puerto Rican player to also wear 21 in honor of Roberto on that same day. And I thought it was really, really cool to see Roberto Clemente's 21 being honored in the same sort of tradition that Jackie Robinson has done. I think that 42 being retired across the league is something that should stay unique. That's not something I want to see done, because if you do it for more than one player, it's going to become a thing. We don't need another thing. But no. I do think it's very cool to have like a Roberto Clemente day like the Pirates did. And if it stays only with the Pirates team, that's cool. If the rest of the league would like to honor that, that's cool as well. But I thought it was really a special day that the Pirates decided to have Roberto Clemente honored, because he was such a humanitarian in addition to being an outstanding baseball player. And then the Pirates lost that game. So that was very, very typical of the Pirates this season. Roberto would be rolling over in his grave if he was watching these boys play today, I tell you. Let's go Bucks. Hey, Eddy Kool, before I get going, or before we start doing our closing here, we haven't given much love to baseball the last couple of weeks because of all this, the other things going on. But it looks like the Dodgers are currently sitting with the best record in baseball. They are, I think, working on their 7th or 8th consecutive division title, something crazy like that. I mean, they're 33-14 as we're recording, and they're just winning every day. And being West Coast, we don't see them a ton, but they're having an outstanding shortened season here, as are the Braves. Your Braves are 28-19. They're looking good. Cubbies are 28-20. The White Sox and the Rays are both quietly having good seasons. The Yankees have slumped. They are actually in 3rd place in their division. Hard to get Stanton and Judge on the field for the Yanks, and they've been having some Garrett Cole issues as well. And then the A's also looking good, leading the AL West. They have a 6-game lead over the Astros. No cheating for the Astros this year, and it looks like no division title as well. But just wanted to give a quick mention to baseball because we're coming down the wire here. We're starting playoffs, I think, the last week of September, and as we record, we're mid-September. So just wanted to throw a little bit of baseball in there before you did your thing there to close us up here, Eddy Kool.
Yep, that's true. The White Sox were, I think they were a sleeper team going into the season. So, the White Sox lead the Central Division. Mm-hmm.
You know, when we were talking preseason baseball here, preseason in the summer, I was mentioning the A's and the Rays as both being potential teams to watch out for. But I was still thinking once the Yankees signed up Garrett Cole, that they were going to have they were going to bash their way to the division and get to the World Series. But they're not hitting very well, and they're not pitching very well. They're 26-21. It's not like they're terrible, but the Rays are 30-17. This is, again, as we record on Monday evening. So obviously those numbers will be changing in the next day or two. But and baseball's taking 8 teams from both National League and American League. They're working, Eddie, on getting them, trying to do like a bubble playoff format for them as well. I'm not sure how they'll do that, if they're planning on picking maybe a couple cities to do that like the NHL did. They obviously are not going to be in one place like the NBA. That's not feasible for baseball, but we'll see how that should all be coming out, working itself out here in the next 2 weeks or so.
Hey man, can't wait, man. Hey man, it's that time of the year where the regular season, even though abbreviated or whatever, now we think about we got the World Series coming up, the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup Finals. Man, it's a great time to be a sports fan, and we'll be in full swing in football season 2. What else is going on? The Masters. It's a great time to be a sports fan. And just imagine, back in March, we didn't know what the hell was going on. Didn't know what was going on. So, man, it's tightening up, man. Tighten up. Before we go, we want to give a happy birthday shout out to the legendary Dan Marino. His birthday is today. He's a 9-time Pro Bowler, former MVP, and he was the first to pass for 5,000 yards in the season, 5,084 to be exact. That record stood for 24 years until Drew Brees made look like throwing for 5,000 yards easy because he did it 4 freaking times. Drew, yeah. So happy birthday to the one, the only Dan Marino, one of the greats. I wish that would have got him one. With that being said, it's been another episode of the Sports Bros podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, we enjoy bringing it to you. And you can reach B Live at Max B Shop, Northman Christian Church Road.
Burgers. We got best brisket. Yes, sir.
Grits, Zima.
Grits, Zima. They got
sweet potato fries.
White Claw.
No law with the White Claw, baby. Rib tips, chicken wings. Hey, if you happen to see B Live, just go in there and show him some love. He got this ginormous Rona beard going on. I told him, don't you shave it, because you know the girls love it, B Live. They love that beard. They love that beard. Do not ask me how I know, but that's neither here nor there. You can check him out, and also all the other Sports Bros related platforms and content that we have on these here internets, the YouTube account, the Instagram account, the Facebook like page. Yep, go ahead and bust up those ratings and reviews. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, you know, that purple little icon, leave us a review. Say Scottie D loves pirate burgers, B Live loves briskets, Eddy Kool loves food. Tell us your favorite color, your favorite type of salami. But either way, give us 5 stars. We greatly appreciate it. The WordPress, I got more writing coming soon with football season in full swing. Gives me something to do. Also, you can catch me Eddy Kool. That's right, me, Eddy Kool on Instagram at Cool Season, all one word. You can catch me on Facebook, Eddy Kool. Yep, that's me, and all the Sports Bros related content. And if you do Snapchat, Super Cool 5000. And did one of my coworkers convince me into creating a TikTok account? That's neither here nor there. Hopefully, I can make one before the president decides to pull the plug on that. But guess what? That's neither that's neither here nor there. But yeah, that's where you can check us out at the Sports Bros Podcast. Scottie D, where can they find you?
Find me on Facebook as always. DONNELLY, Scott Donnelly. I'm your guy. And hopefully tomorrow, Eddy Kool, you can find me on a golf course. That's the plan for tomorrow.
Yep. Is it starting to get chilly in Western Pennsylvania?
It feels great. It was about 72 degrees here today. Partly cloudy, nice cool breeze, no precipitation. It was nice. It's starting to feel like football season in Western Pennsylvania.
Yep, starting to feel like football season. Up here in Northeast Ohio, you can feel the chill from off of Lake Erie. It's a favorite time of the year because, if you go everywhere, everything is pumpkin spice this, pumpkin that. So go ahead and get your pumpkin fix and everything else. You got anything to say before we get the hell up out of here and eat some chicken wings and watch wrestling, Scotty?
Shout out to Coastal Carolina for beating Kansas this past week.
Yes, sir. Yep, which goes to show, normally in college football, you take a check to get an ass whipping, but when the ass whips back, the compensation is nice as well too. So you get the money and you get the win. All right, with that being said, and in closing, do something nice for yourself. And if you can, do something nice for someone else. They'll greatly appreciate it. Also, if you do something nice for somebody, don't brag about it on social media. Don't do it. Just not cool. Love each other. Mental health matters. We love you. Take care. And once again, thank you so much for listening to the Sports Bros Podcast.
Wake me up when September ends.
Oh, yeah. B-Live's going to be mad at you for singing, but oh well. Bye, y'all.